Discuss all that and better understand this is retired Air Force Special Operations Commander Glenn Ignacio, who has worked with people in the military who have been radicalized. Glenn, welcome to the show. This is such a fascinating story to see an American citizen who has served our country turn on its people and try to kill them. How does someone going from someone who serves their country to then committing an attack like this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And unfortunately, we've seen it actually in the past. And in fact, just this past year, 5 people have been arrested that have tied or at least tried to propel ISIS operations in the United States. A lot of times, because they have lost their space in Syria, there's a tremendous international recruiting effort that they're looking for people that have military affiliations. Sometimes people in the military had affiliation beforehand and they were looking for military training. But it really comes down to the ideology and what they're looking for and a bigger cause, which is for their religion and this extreme approach to things.
You know, according to the International Center for Counterterrorism, about 300 Americans have actually either traveled or attempted to join ISIS between 2013 and 2019. So a lot of time in between that study. But what kind of tactics is ISIS using to recruit these individuals specifically?
Yeah, it's something. In fact, it mentioned it a few minutes before was this connection to them internationally to see if they were tasked. Now, it's interesting is that ISIS has been rather significant in Afghanistan and is growing significantly. And actually, Sarah Adams, Sean Ryan, and Scott Mann, who were involved in a lot of operations in Afghanistan, getting people out, have warned the U.S. government that there is a significant amount of ISIS and Al Qaeda, up to 1,000 operatives, that have come across the border into the United States. So that means that they have the potential to recruit here within the United States itself. And it doesn't have to be an international connection like we've seen in the past. And again, with the protests we see against the issues with Israel and Palestine, we're seeing a lot of resurgence of guilt and or issues against the United States because of those operations and supporting Israel overseas.
Yeah, and we even had FBI Director Christopher Wray warn last year that there are red lights going off everywhere because people are, as you mentioned, being inspired by Hamas's attacks on October 7th. You know, what is ISIS preying on certain people? How are they targeting individuals? Is it that specific, or is it more they're casting a wide net?
They try to get more specific because, again, with the military, they're looking for people that have military training because they know the significant impact of their training, such as we just saw in New Orleans. And so, what will happen is they're looking for people that are lost. They're looking for people that have a fractured ideology. And again, as you look at it, even in our own country, where we saw people saying "death to America" because of what was going on overseas with Israel and Gaza, those kind of things can galvanize certain people that are on the fence. And so, that's one of the things where you're saying, "How do I see these people attack Americans?" Well, that's where they get very polarized. And as you see the United States support Israel, they feel that they need to support a Palestinian or at least a Muslim approach to things. And this is one of the things that people will take an attack or at least take an approach like this to hurt others. That's just one example of many others that can come.
Yeah, and I think people misunderstand the ideologies of a lot of these terrorist groups like Hamas, whose slogan is "Death to America, Death to Israel." And we saw many people carrying Hamas flags during some of these pro-Palestinian protests, which is very concerning to see on American soil. Before we let you go, you know, you have seen firsthand people get radicalized. What are some of the red flags that stood out to you when this process was happening? Because we're talking about jihad here, someone who is very religious, but it's going from just being religious to becoming an extremist. So what are some of those flags?
Well, one of the things we've seen is where people sort of hold up, they pull back a little bit more so that they're not giving an indication of what they're going to do. That's one of the significant things. Unfortunately, we do see indications like this individual that put these videos out or had the flag, of course, during the attack. But it's the complete approach and change in personality of an individual, somebody talking rather fundamental as far as their religion being much more extreme. So there are significant changes from people that are getting quieter to also those that are taking certain approaches that are very extreme or completely changing the way that they've been in the past. It's hard to see, but some are also very, very direct and open.
Wow. Glenn Ignacio, thanks for helping us break this down, an important topic that needs to continue to be discussed. Good to see you this evening.